Hi, this is Jeremy Kellett, Director of Recruiting here at Oakley Trucking, and I'm your host for this podcast. This is the Oakley Podcast, Trucking Business and Family. And once again, we bring you some good information on this podcast. I want everybody to know, I mean, we've gained a lot of new listeners lately. So if you've just started listening to this podcast, it's something that we try to, it started out being we directed it to our owner-operators, and we still do most of the time. But we want to hear from our listeners and what they want to hear. We do it it's on YouTube also, and it's on all your platforms out there. You can find it. But I tell you, we put a lot of effort in this trying to give you good information. A lot of it's about Oakley Trucking, communicating with our owner-operators and their families. There's definitely a lot of that. To be honest with you, we want to touch as many truck drivers as we can out there with this information. So what I need you to do is to help me do that. And by doing that, you can share this with everybody. If it's our owner-operators, make sure that the rest of the guys are listening to it, the guys and girls. We got a lot of that too. So, share it, subscribe, comment, like, and just talk about it. Give us some feedback on what you want to hear and you want to talk about on this show, and we'd be glad to try to put it out there for you and do a little research. Now, I've always said in the past that this is not a podcast of really news. We don't do a lot of the latest news, that kind of stuff going on. We give you a lot of other things, but we're going against the grain today. I've actually got Lewie Pugh, the Vice President of OOIDA, Owner-Operator Independent Driver Association, with me today, and also Bryce Mongeon from the D.C. office with OOIDA, and we're going to visit on some stuff that is very important in the trucking world today.
Aero Truck Sales has been in business for over 60 years and a longtime partner of Oakley Trucking and the Oakley Podcast. Trey Visor and Keith Wilson do a great job at putting you in the right truck to fit your needs and our needs here at Oakley. They carry all makes and models to choose from with on-site financing through transport funding. So whether you're a seasoned owner-operator or a first-time buyer, be sure to contact Keith Wilson at Aero Truck Sales at 573-216-6047 and tell them you heard it on the Oakley Podcast.
We might not be able to get it real deep into it, but this is stuff that I feel like our listeners need to know and understand, because these guys at OOIDA are fighting for you. And a lot of times they need your help, and we're going to discuss that a little bit too of what they can do. But, it's these things that are going to help you be more successful as an independent contractor and as a truck driver. And that's what we want to do today. So let's visit with Lewie and Bryce. How you guys doing today?
Good, thank you.
Doing great.
Good. Glad to have you guys. I appreciate you taking time out of your day to spend a little time with me and our listeners here at Oakley Trucking. I noticed, of course, Lewie's been on with us before a year or two ago, and, of course, like he said, when he came on, our listeners just skyrocketed. I mean, it just took it to another level. Thanks, Lewie.
Anytime.
But I was looking at you guys' website earlier, and this is your 50th anniversary year. Tell us about that.
Yeah, we're pretty proud of that. We've been around for 50 years now, and as most people know, there's been a lot of trucking groups come and trucking groups go and associations and so on, but we've stood the test of time thanks to some of our founders and leaders and even ones we still have. Todd Spencer, our president, being around so long. They figured out how to make it work and get guys together, and yeah, it's our 50th, and in fact, we're looking really forward to September, the showdown at GBATS there in Joplin at 4 States. We're partnering with Brian Martin in 4 States, having a 50th anniversary party for OOIDA and their show together. So if you're in the area, we'd love to have you stop any truckers, of course. And, Brian does a great job with that show down there. So, but yeah, 50 years of advocacy. I mean, that's what OOIDA is. We were in 1973. We were started due to the Arab oil embargoes. It's kind of funny. A bunch of truckers got together and they went to Washington, D.C. and thought they could fix the problems and go back to trucking. And here we are 50 years later, still fighting some of the same fights we were fighting when we got started. But we started in a camper trailer chained to a light pole in a parking lot at a truck stop where our building sits now. And 50 years later, we've bought the truck stop, tore it down, built a building, and become a whole lot bigger. We now have an office in D.C., of course. Bryce is one of the key people there, fighting for you every day. I get down there quite often, but I like to tell people our office is right across the street from DOT, and we look down on them.
That's good. Well, for new people that's tuning in to this podcast, you explained a little bit, but what is OOIDA? I mean, what is your main function for people that maybe never heard of it, Lewie?
Yeah, and I appreciate that. Our main whole sole purpose is to advocate on the rights of small business truckers and drivers. You know, they get lost in a lot of that. Our name is somewhat dated. We were started before deregulation, of course. Back prior to deregulation, an independent driver was just a guy who wasn't a teamster. A truck driver was a company driver, wasn't a teamster. So that's why we're the Owner-Operator Independent Driver Association. I mean, a lot of the laws and the rules and stuff that we fight for, whether you're a company driver or you're an owner-operator, you all got to follow them, hours of service and stuff like that. But our main thing is advocacy. That's what we were started. We have programs here at our association that if you are a member that you can be a part of. We do permitting, licensing, drug testing, insurance. We have what I think is a great thing for member compliance department. You work, or you're a company driver, operator, whatever, and this is part of your membership. And membership with OOIDA is very reasonable. It's right now we have a special. It's only $50 for 2 years. Usually it's $45 a year. But compliance, if you have a question, you want a contract looked at, you think you got a ticket, you need help filing a data queue, you're thinking about buying a truck or you're leasing to a carrier, you can send it. We'll look at the contracts. We'll tell you the good, the bad, the ugly. We're not attorneys. We're not prepaid legal, anything like that. A lot of them guys there have been truck drivers. The biggest thing I like to point out about OOIDA as well, we were founded by truckers in 1973. Like I said, a bunch of them got together. And we're still, to this day, ran by truckers. I was a trucker for 25 years. Todd Spencer, our president, was a trucker. Our entire board of directors is made up of people out there either trucking now or former truckers. So OOIDA still got our hand on the pulse of what's going on. We got 150,000 members across the country. I wish we had 300,000, but hey, we'll get there. So, but that's sort of our purpose. Like I said, the main thing here is advocacy. Another quick thing we have is our foundation, and they do a lot of research studying. They offer, if you go on OOIDA.com, you can look at a lot of the courses and videos and stuff that they do about becoming an owner-operator, leasing a carrier, getting your own through, all kinds of stuff like that. And they also do a training thing every year called Truck to Success. It's here in Kansas City or Grain Valley or Blue Springs, right next to Grain Valley, where they take you from A to Z of becoming an owner-operator, creating a business plan, you know, what permits, license, insurance, how to set up your business, LLC, sole proprietor, leasing to a carrier, what to look for when you lease to a carrier, you know, purchasing a truck. If you decide you want to get your own authority, what it takes to do all that, working with customers, working with brokers, all these things. So I guess that's OOIDA in a nutshell.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good because I mean, there's a lot of things that go into just being a truck driver, and especially being an owner-operator and wanting to get your own business going. And that's something, now, just like Oakley, we send you guys our contract and make sure y'all approve it. It's been a while since I've done that. I used to do that with Tom Crowley. Is he still there?
Yes, Tom's still there.
Yeah.
He's working hard over there. He's in the compliance department I was talking about.
Okay.
You know, and like I said, if you're a member, that's a free service. You don't pay nothing
that's
for
good.
that.
And the only requirement is got to have a CDL. Is that right?
To be a member?
Yes, sir.
Well, we got people here as members. I don't know if they got a CDL or not. You don't have to. I mean, you can be a member. We take all, but you know, which is fine. And we have some associate and some other kind of deals too. But you know, you can be a full member without CDL. You can't be on our board though. I mean, like you can be a member, but for me, I've been on the board for 19 years. I came in the office in 2017. But to be a board of director, you have to be actively driving. You have to be a member for 5 years continuously, and then to qualify. And then if you're nominated to stay and stuff. So there are restrictions for that, of course, to make sure that you're a truck driver to be on our board. And that's who governs us.
It's great. You guys have really done a lot with that association over the years for sure, and it's representing these truck drivers that need some representation for sure. So, with that being said, let's cover a couple of these things that I sent you notes on to see where we're at, to give our listeners an idea. And I guess maybe since we got Bryce here, maybe start with this AB5 that's been out there forever now, Bryce. I mean, how many years has this been still going on?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's hard to keep track of. It's frustrating to keep track of. You know, we stay on top of it here in the office between the government affairs team, lawyers who we work with, people who are tracking state government affairs. But even then, it's just hard to keep track of where exactly is this in the process. You know, right now we're still in the legal challenge phase of this. We are now a party to the lawsuit against AB5 in California, and those court hearings and those court dates and those arguments are ongoing. And really, where we're at right now is frustrated, like we've been all along, because there's still no clarity on how the law is going to be enforced, you know, how it's going to be applied, how can someone continue to be an independent contractor as an owner-operator in the state of California. Lewie already talked about the services that we offer to our members and kind of the advice that we offer to our members, but what we do with government affairs and what we do with this AB5, it kind of shows how that goes both ways, because we're relying in part on what we're hearing from the state, what we're hearing in California from our members to help inform our members about, you know, what they might be able to do. But as far as the most concrete information that we have, it was a few months back now, but basically the state said that they are going to be using both the old classification test and the new classification tests for trucking cases that might come before the labor board, which, you know, it's something you probably couldn't make up if you were thinking about this. But the state, I think, recognizes that with all these ongoing legal challenges and so much uncertainty, it sounds like they're trying to cover their bases with this. So unfortunately, we don't have any concrete answers, and I think it's going to unfortunately be a while before we have any concrete answers. It's going to take time for these legal challenges to play out, and even then, you know, it's going to be up to enforcement for the state. We're going to have to wait and see, you know, what do they want to do depending on how these legal challenges play out. So the bottom line is it's something we're continuing to fight. It's something we're continuing to watch in California. Work classification is something we're watching very closely at the federal level with Congress and with the Department of Labor and other regulatory agencies too.
The AB5 is so, man, it's so confusing to a person that hadn't kept up with it, you know, all the time. And I try to do my best to read up on it, and because it's a big deal to us, because we're 100% owner-operators, and that's all we have here. So it really comes into play if some of that classification takes place, Lewie. You know, I don't know how far down the line this is going to, how long it's going to take to affect a company like us or independent contractor status. I did like what Bryce said there. I didn't realize that they're taking the old classification and the new. I'm assuming that news, those three questions they were asking, and going to take that in consideration. Is that right, Lewie?
Yeah, it's my understanding. Of course, like he also said, changes all the time. It's hard to keep up with. So who knows what the final? We're still not getting a real clean. We're not getting a real clear idea of what's really going to happen. And I think they're making it up as they go along, unfortunately. Yeah. I just got back from Reno from the ATHS show. So we had a lot of members from California come through, of course, being right there in Reno. It was very interesting. I asked a lot of them what they were hearing or how they were handling it or anything like that. And at the time, most of them said that they haven't really been bothered by AB5. A couple of guys that released to some nationwide carriers, they had said that the carriers had told them they couldn't load out California anymore. That's just how they're handled. We don't know if that's right, wrong, or indifferent, but most of the guys out there, they say they're just still doing the same thing. They're not ready. They're more concerned about CARB than what they're concerned about AB5.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, but California's a crazy animal out there, so who knows what's going to really shake out.
Yeah. Well, what else is on you guys' radar that's pretty important right now that you're talking about?
Well, I think one thing or a couple things. First and foremost is probably the parking bill that's out there. And for those who don't know, we got it to go to the House, or it's passed through committee. It's now on the House floor waiting to be voted on. So that's a good thing. So, I strongly urge folks to reach out to their members of Congress and ask them to support the bill for this whole parking thing, because we think it stands a really, really good chance of passing the Truck Parking Safety Improvement Act, because it's pretty much got bipartisan support, and it's HR 2367 for those out there listening. You can reach out to your elected official and tell them to support it. And the Senate bill mirrors it, and we think we're going to get it through the Senate too. So this is probably the best chance we've ever had to get a parking bill passed, probably ever.
So if it passes, Louis, what does that mean? I mean, that means private people can build parking lots, or what's it mean?
Yes, there's a way that truck stops and others can as well. It's going to be a grant program. It's going to lock $755 million out or to use for 3 years. And what states and municipalities and stuff can come up with a proposed, and it's like a bid system, submit it, and they'll look at it, and if it meets the qualifications, then they'll award them the money. Now, where a truck stop, like if they want to expand their parking, or somebody like that, or somebody's got some land wants for parking, they can do it too, but they have to go through their municipality. The only thing is, they can't charge for it. Any kind of money, any of this parking is paid for out of the bill, the Truck Parking Safety Improvement Act. It has to be free parking, so they can't put these reserves and all this kind of stuff that we were seeing is gaining so much traction out there. So yes, it's a really good thing. And like I said, the way to get this done is to call your representatives in the House and ask them to pass this 2367 and to get it, because like I said, it's on the floor now. All Congress is going to get a chance to vote for this pretty soon. So we got to get it across the line. But we're never going to get a better shot than we got right now, I don't think.
Bryce, you got any input on that truck parking bill?
It does seem like there is a real opportunity to get something done here. I think what's really important is we have buy-in from leaders on the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee from on the Republican side, on the Democratic side. We have bipartisan support in the Senate. So we're hearing a lot of people say good things about this. And, as Lewie mentioned, it passed through the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee already. And we're still getting, just today, we got another co-sponsor on the bill in the Senate. So I feel like we really do have a good opportunity here, and just want to echo what Lewie said. It's so important for truckers to speak up on this issue. This is one where this issue is something where we've done a great job of making members more aware of the problem. It's something people are actually talking about now, but there's still always going to be members who need to be educated on it.
LubeZone has opened a new location in Statesville, North Carolina. It's located north of Statesville on Highway 77, just west of Exit 59. LubeZone services both single trucks and truck fleets, so whether you're driving through or you have a trucking company nearby, LubeZone are the experts to turn to. LubeZone's specialty is full-service oil changes that take approximately 30 to 40 minutes. They also offer tractor-trailer grease, gearbox service, generator service, reefer service, and DOT inspections. They also go the extra mile when it comes to quality control. What does that mean? That means your semi-truck is checked not just once, but twice to ensure all service and parts are good to go. LubeZone does this so you can rest easy knowing that your truck is in top condition. No other service center knows semi-trucks better than LubeZone. Check out lubezone.com for all their locations, and when you go in there, tell them you heard it on the Oakley Podcast.
You know, is it a constant battle, guys, to get people like that, politicians in Washington, D.C., to take you seriously about truck drivers? Because, you know, I mean, that is our blood veins of the country that's running. And, I mean, I bet it's just a constant battle for you to educate people on how important this is, you know, transportation and trucking is to these people.
It's very much a constant battle, and as you may know or don't know, two or 3 weeks ago, I just testified in front of House T&I, and there's a lot of questions about parking and some other stuff we'll probably talk about today as well. And T&I committee, a lot of them seem to get it, but, you know, the thing truckers got to remember.
What is that, Lewie? What's T&I?
Transportation Infrastructure Committee, I'm sorry, yeah. You know, when you have your Congress as a whole, and then they have all these little subcommittees or committee, and like T&I is the Transportation Infrastructure. That's where most trucking things live or die. Those are the people that oversee trucking and air and rail and pipeline is the T&I committee. And it's one of the bigger committees, and it's actually one of the best committees that get things done on a bipartisan level, which is well. So it's a good committee, but it's a big committee. Lots of Democrats, lots of Republicans. Sam Graves from here in Missouri is the chair right now, and that's the way it works. Like right now, the Republicans control the House, so a Republican is the chair, and a Democrat would be considered the ranking member. But anyway, so T&I is where most trucking, and that's where the majority of our stuff that we fight for is T&I. Now, there's a few things, some small things, but T&I is your big thing there. But
Okay.
What I was going to say, what truckers need to remember, why it's so important to reach out to your lawmaker, is there's plenty of people in D.C. who are working against you and don't see things the same way you do. Some in the trucking business, I shouldn't say business, some in the trucking industry, a lot in the safety industry, a lot in big business, money. There's lots of things like that that's working against you because everybody wants cheap freight, things hauled cheaply, quicker, you know, and all this kind of stuff. We all know this. And it's easy to take, because truckers are out there working. They ain't got time to be doing all these things. But it's very important that you get a relationship with your lawmaker and you do call in and say these things. Because I guarantee you, there's lots and lots of people saying things against you. There's lots of people, we pretty much got this parking thing taken care of, but there's still people out there that don't want this to pass.
That doesn't make any sense to me. Why
Man,
would it be
it's
somebody?
crazy.
That don't make any sense.
It's safety. It's basic. Why shouldn't people? You know what I tell people, and I've told, and a couple of lawmakers that voted against this, and I told them they're worried about spending the money. I say you give millions of dollars to enforcement to write truck drivers tickets for not taking their breaks or not being parked in a safe place or whatever to enforce the regulations. Why can't you give some millions to put parking out there so truckers can park and get off the road and get their safety breaks like they should where they have a place to do it? Because right now there's one spot for every 11 trucks that's safe. You know, that's crazy.
That is crazy. That is. Well, so that's a big topic. I'm glad to hear some kind of good news on that, though. It looks like maybe something will happen, but I'm sure it's still going to take a long time to develop and get places set up and more parking, but at least to get the ball rolling and get it going. What about, I was having a conversation with one of our owner-operators just about an hour ago about speed limiters, and he was really concerned about that because, I mean, he you know what he said you really need to get the public's view on speed limiters if trucks had speed limiters, not just truck drivers, but the public that drives these four-wheelers around and what they think about trucks getting speed limiters and what they would say, because he had a good point about that. They're not going to like it. They're going to at all. And it's something that is a little frustrating to think about, but is this something that's, where's this at right now being discussed?
We're waiting on FMCSA. Of course, they had a notice proposed rulemaking and everything, so we're waiting to hear from them. But they're supposed to come out with something. It was supposed to come out this month, But now they kind of kicked the can down the road till I think September or something, right, Bryce?
Yeah, that's what we've heard. Yeah, and it's because of all the comments that they've received. It's taken them a long time to get through over 15,000 comments.
Yeah, that's how bad this is. But your driver, your owner operator there, he's right. And that's what we've been trying to do to OOIDA is get this out into the public, try to get it on local news channels. We've put billboards up across the country talking about just trying to get the motoring public to realize. Because when people hear that don't know anything about trucks, hey, we want to slow these trucks down, they think, oh, that's a good idea. Well, they don't stop to think about the bigger picture and what's going to happen when you do that and the safety thing. We all know it's safer when all trucks are going the same speed. So, and that's what we need to do, and that's all traffic should be going the same. The good thing is, I don't know what FMCSA is going to do. I feel like they're going to do something and set some sort of speed limit. But the good thing is, there's a fine congressman in Oklahoma who's got a bill out there right now. It came out a couple weeks ago, HR 39, and if that would pass, that will prevent any kind of speed limiter bill from coming on. And so again, in our time, truckers need to get out there in public and tell your friends, tell your family, everybody, reach out to your elected official and tell them to be a co-sponsor and to support HR 3039, right, Bryce?
Yep, HR 3039. Yeah, and just to piggyback off what Luke was talking about, we've been doing meetings on Capitol Hill about that legislation. And for anyone who's thinking of contacting their lawmaker, it'll be very informative for them. In fact, when I've gone on meetings, some people have said, "Oh yeah, we've heard from some truckers on this already." So this is something that's kind of percolating out there. But it's so important because sometimes we'll start talking to staff, and they think, as it kind of makes sense, is this a speed limiter that's going to set it to the speed limit? You've got to tell them no. What FMCSA is looking to do is put trucks at one single speed for every single spot in the country, every single road, every single interstate. And then the other thing too is, you start talking to some people, and when they click of what you're talking about, they're like, wait, you mean they're going to be putting trucks at 60 miles an hour no matter where? And especially you start going into offices like Texas, Oklahoma, like the bill sponsor, immediately like, well, this doesn't seem like a very good idea for our roads. So again, that's why it's so important to talk to your lawmakers, talk to their staff, and educate them, because this is an issue where hopefully once they're made aware of it, they can see the problem with it.
Does FMCSA is their whole reasoning behind the speed limiters is safety? I mean, is that what they're saying? I mean, it's safety. I mean, it looks to me like they came up with this CSA score, and safety's been nothing but worse since they came up with it. But I don't know about, speed limiters just doesn't seem practical or common sense thinking to me, Lewie.
Yeah, I would agree with you. Yeah, that's what they're throwing this out as safety. That's what it was petitioned for, was safety. But yeah, I'm right there with you. I don't think it's safety. I think we can look at a lot of things that FMCSA has done over the past 10 to 15 years with some of their mandates that didn't help. It hadn't helped safety at all. In fact, if anything, it's had a reverse effect. ELDs, I still think is one of those things, because we hear so many guys call in here and tell us they just feel like they're racing the clock. And I saw it when I was getting off the road. Guys flying through the truck stops because they're trying to get parked before they run out of hours, and because it's not the ELD, it's the flexibility in hours of service. It's the not enough places to park. There's so many things that go into it, and the ELD kind of gets blamed for it. But I guess if you want to say there's anything good about an ELD, it brought some of this to the top, to where these problems we've been telling them for years and years and years, it finally, I guess, brought the chickens home to roost. But because it's just so many things. But yeah, this is all supposedly safety driven. But I just drove by from Reno in a semi, and I went across states where the speed limit was 75 and 80 mile an hour. There's rumors that it could be as low as 60. Be a 20 mile per hour speed difference between cars and trucks if this would go through. And my personal opinion, I'm not condoning driving too fast, but to me, a person driving too fast, they just blow by me and they're gone. Now maybe they hit somebody up the road, and that's a shame. It shouldn't happen. What I don't like, and I'm sure we've all been there, is when you're driving up the road at 70 mile an hour or 80 or 75 or whatever speed limit is, and you come up on that car that's 15, 20 miles per hour going slow, and you about rear end them because you just come up on them so quick, and you're doing the speed limit. I mean, we have minimum speed limits on the interstate for a reason. So, but yeah, 20 mile per hour difference possible. That's crazy to me.
Yeah, and I think too, kind of getting back to what OOIDA does and why it's important we're here in DC doing what we do and do what we do for our members. Like Lewie was saying before, there's people who are always telling the other side of the story or telling a different story than we are. So on the speed limiter issue, you have large carriers who already use speed limiters, and sure, maybe if you have thousands of trucks, thousands of employees, and for your fleet management, maybe it makes sense to use speed limiters. So if OOIDA is not out here, and if owner operators and drivers aren't out here talking to FMCSA or talking to lawmakers, they're just going to hear, well, safety advocates like it, these big trucking companies like it, so what's there to lose on this? It seems like a good deal. So that is why it's so important to make sure that you're speaking up so that small business perspective and that driver perspective is heard.
Yeah, because most of the big companies are already doing it, right?
Yeah, and that's something I argue with so much, whether it's at CVSA or with FMCSA or even some lawmakers. Why are we mandating driver management systems? Okay, that's a business choice. And I get why a big fleet or even a medium-sized fleet or some of them use some of these practices for fuel and different things like that. But the guy who owns the truck, it's his truck, it's his fuel, it's his money, it's everything. And as you well know, Jeremy, for having a whole fleet of owner-operators there, they don't need all these driver management tools because it's their stuff. They have an investment. They got skin in the game, and a lot of skin in the game. So not that company drivers are bad, but they probably pay a little more attention, a little more, because, if they do something wrong, they're out of a job, they're out of a business, they're out of career. They could lose their house and everything, because they got such a big investment out there. So it's very frustrating that we want to mandate driver management tools, make that a law.
Yeah,
in the name of safety.
It just seems like they don't. It seems like the FMCSA sometimes they don't see a difference between company driver and an independent contractor. They just want to put them all in one pool, and we're going to control them all.
Yeah, they don't. Enforcement don't. So, it's a shame.
Well, one of the things that's crazy to me, though, is in the, this rulemaking has been going on a long time. The speed limiter rulemaking, they previously said in the rulemaking that, we recognize this may disadvantage small businesses. This is going to take away some of their efficiency and some of their competitive advantage. So it's like, well, thanks at least for recognizing that. But, it's frustrating even when they do recognize it. It's kind of like, well, oh, well, we're going to do it anyway.
Yeah, yeah. One other thing. I didn't actually put it on your list, but I just thought about it during our conversation, and then we'll get off here. I know you guys busy, you got stuff to do, but this is really good information. I really appreciate y'all doing this because it goes a long way with our listeners and especially our independent contractors. We've got almost 900 of them, and they listen religiously to this podcast. But the CSA, I mean, and these violations and stuff play a big role in an owner-operator's and a truck driver's, sometimes their pay, because there are companies like us that we associate their pay with violations that, want them to be a safe driver. So is there changes coming with how they do these basics and the CSA scores? Have y'all heard anything changing on that? Just the reason I say that, I had a meeting a while ago and we were talking, and the safety director said that now if DOT gives you he can't give you a violation for a non-working headlight during daylight hours.
I don't know if that's right. I haven't heard that. I chuckle at that because the last damn ticket I got with my truck was just that right there. I drive with my lights on day and night just because I thought it was safe for people to see me better. And daggone DOT cop in the state of Ohio pulled me over on noon on a sunny day and said, "Driver, you got a headlight out," and wrote me a violation and everything for it. I'm like, how am I supposed to know? It was working like, it's daylight. So I hope you're right, but I haven't heard that quite like that yet. But they are working supposedly on the system and supposed to be changing it. They came up with one when Martinez was in charge at FMCSA, and I can't tell you what the name of the system, the figuring was, but it was, nobody could explain it. If you're a scientist or like Tom Weekly in our foundation who does all these, he understood it. He explained to me, I still didn't understand it. And Ray Martinez was smart enough at the time to say, if I can't explain it to where people understand it, we're never going to get by and it ain't going to work. So I know they're trying to. My personal opinion, and this is just me, this ain't even OOIDA talking. My personal opinion, I don't think they know what to do. I think they know it's a screw up and it's not working and it didn't do what it was supposed to, but they don't want to say that. So they're just trying to figure out how to bow out gracefully, maybe.
Yeah, I think you're right. What's your take, Bryce?
I think Lewie's right. I know along the same lines, we're always we're always talking a little bit down here and shopping around lawmakers. Is there anything we can do on data queue and data queue reform? Because we know that's a big problem for carriers. So this gets so confusing, but this is all kind of part of that same system of how do you get good information in so you can get good information back out and actually have some sort of data and some sort of scores that is accurate and makes sense and can be used for something. Because what we don't want is bad data, wrong, incorrect citations. But we also are just trying to figure out how can we support things that will actually support safety and not just support compliance for compliance sake.
Oakley Trucking is a 100% owner-operator company. We specialize in hopper bottom, end dump, and pneumatic trailers. We provide the trailer free of charge, and you provide the truck. We have a large customer base that reaches the whole United States as well as parts of Canada. Our owner-operators live anywhere from Texas to North Carolina to Pennsylvania to Wisconsin and everywhere in between, and we get them home weekends. We take it seriously when you join Oakley Trucking because we need you to be successful. Oakley offers great benefits and competitive mileage pay, so you know that when your wheels are turning, you're generating money no matter if you're loaded or empty. We understand that you want to make a good living and that you make our living. We only take on independent contractors, and to be honest with you, we are very particular on who we lease on. You must have a good driving record, good work history, and clean, dependable truck. So if you're interested in Oakley Trucking or just want some more information, you can go to oakleytrucking.com, listen to our weekly podcast, The Oakley Podcast, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's been something that's been in play now for 10 plus years, and I mean it has brought. I will say this: by those violations, it's helped me as a recruiting department. I can tell you that because I can see maybe a pattern that somebody has by running a PSP on them. To whereas used to you wasn't able to run that, all you got was the MVR. So it's helped us, I think, lease on better contractors just by to see a pattern that maybe they've had in the past that I normally wouldn't see. That I think has helped on as far as our looking at it. But man, there's so much gray area there whether they can give them a violation or not, and I don't know. It has its good and bad, but we'll see what happens down the road. We're just in that situation, Lewie and Bryce, where we're a trucking company. We don't get to make the rules. We just got to figure out how to abide by them the best we can and make everybody happy. So that's what we do. What is, you said it a couple times, but just for our listeners and owner-operators, what's the best way for them to get involved with OOIDA and support you guys as much as they can? What do they need to do?
It's really easy. You can either get on our webpage, which is OOIDA.com, which that's really easy, and that can get you to become a member. You can call here at the office. We're open from 7:30 to 5:30 Central Time, Monday through Friday, 816-229-5791. Ask for our membership department. Good thing about OOIDA, you don't get an automated system. You'll get a real person. They get you to our membership department. They get you signed up. If you want more information on some of the stuff we've been talking about as far as what's going on in D.C. and trucking on the advocacy front, and there's some other issues like underride guards, the restroom bill, some stuff that we didn't even talk about today, go to fightingfortruckers.com. That's our website. We have all that information there. And the biggest thing, besides being a member, and like I said, we got specials for 50th, so 2 years for 50, when usually it's 45 per year. So take advantage of that, of course. I might as well sell it while I'm at it. But the biggest thing after that is get involved. Like I said, if you want changes in your industry, excuse my language, but bitching on the CB or social media or at the truck stop ain't going to change it. It doesn't work. Doesn't change it. What changes it is making relationships with your lawmakers. Now, I know not everybody's got the best lawmaker and get what they want, but a lot of people have good lawmakers, and a lot of times lawmakers just don't know. They're not from trucking back. We got a couple truckers in Congress, but that's it, just two that I can think of off the top of my head. But with that being said, and they don't know these issues. They don't understand them. Reach out to your lawmakers. Of course, you're probably not going to talk to them. You're going to their staff. Explain to them these problems. Explain to them real-world issues, why this works or why this doesn't work, why you need this, why you don't need this. Follow up with them. Ask for their transportation person when you call, if you think about it. But just start that relationship and start it. It makes Bryce's job and the rest of my guys in D.C. and even my job much easier when they walk into an office and there's been 3 or 4 phone calls about this parking problem or this speed limiter thing, or what are they talking about? Because we're a known entity, so they ask us and they reach out. So when they start getting calls, we don't even have to walk in the office. A staffer will pick up the phone and say, hey, OOIDA, what's going on here? And it's good for them to say they're a member of OOIDA. And if you don't want to call them or you want a real easy way to do it, if you go to that fightingfortruckers.com, like I said, we've got a place on there where you can file comments, message your lawmaker, find the phone number for your lawmaker, whoever it is. Real easy. It's real simple. It's a one-stop shop for you. We usually have some sort of pre-filled messages for certain things that's going, but you can go in and edit them. You can add, take away, whatever you want to do. And what I tell everybody, you can go to fightingfortruckers.com, send a message to a lawmaker about a parking issue or a speed limiter or any of these things in the same amount of time, if not quicker, that you can put a post on a social media site complaining about it. And I can guarantee you the time you waste on a social media site ain't going to do anything for you. But there's a good chance that the lawmaker, you're going to make some headway. That's what we need. We need the more truckers get engaged, and it's real easy now. I mean, you can go to Fighting for Truckers on your phone, and I'll get off my soapbox, but it's real easy, and that's the way we change things. I've been in this business for a lot of years, over 25 years, and I've heard lots of complaints, seen lots of things. But the only way we're really going to change it is you've got to get involved, and we've got to do it on a political level.
And that's very good, because I was going to ask you, Bryce. So a lot of people, everybody's told to do that, and I think automatically a lot of them think that it falls on deaf ears. And I think, tell us how it doesn't fall on deaf ears, that it actually does work.
Yeah, so in a previous life, I actually worked on Capitol Hill, was a legislative aide for a member of Congress, and when you hear from a constituent, when you get that email in there that says I'm a constituent, especially if there's a personalized message, or if someone's calling the office and they're telling you about their experience, that is what should get a staffer's attention, and most of the times it does, because these lawmakers are here to represent you, sometimes it may fall on deaf ears, but I do think more often than not, lawmakers do care about serving their constituents regardless of their politics. You might think your lawmaker is, far to the left, far to the right, what have you. But if you live in their district and you call them and say, hey, when I'm trying to do my job, driving truck, and I can't find a place to park, that's something every single one of them should care about. So, don't be afraid or hesitant to call. You are an expert on these issues. You know more than I feel confident saying more than any staff you're going to talk to. So it really can make a difference, especially if you can offer yourself as a resource. And when trucking issues come up, if you can develop a good relationship with staff or with the lawmaker, they can look to you as someone who knows what they're talking about. It doesn't, again, I'll reiterate, it doesn't have to be some big, long, complicated call. It's as simple as picking up the phone, sharing your experience with them, leaving them your contact information. And if you're an OOIDA member, want to leave, our contact or tell this is who you're calling for, you can tell them that too, so they know, down here in DC, if they have any other follow-up, they can do that. And the last thing I'll just highlight is that fightingfortruckers.com, you don't even have to be an OOIDA member. Certainly we would love for you to be an OOIDA member, but you go on there, put in your email address, and you can get signed up for all kind of alerts, whether it's a call to action to contact your lawmaker, as Lewie was describing, or one of the things that's great that we do is send out informational updates. We're not going to overwhelm your inbox, but what I really love that we do is we tailor the information for our members. I think about just, a year or two ago, as we're working through a highway bill and you have hundreds of different policies in a highway bill, our job is to go through that, pull out what is important for small business truckers and get that information out to our members, but anyone who signed up on Fighting for Truckers. So, go in, sign up. It's free to do. It's a great way to stay up to date on trucking issues.
Now, you guys also have a podcast, don't you, Lewie? Do y'all do a weekly or monthly podcast?
We have a radio show on XM every night. It's 7 Eastern, 6 Central, Landline Now. And then it goes into podcast the very next morning, the whole show. And it's an hour-long show, informational news, talk about government affairs stuff, talk about all kinds of different stuff. But it's mainly geared as an informational show as opposed to an entertainment show, I guess you would say. Try to keep guys up to date on what's going on. But, yeah, you can catch it as a podcast. And, again, it's on Landline Now is the show. And I'm terrible. I can't tell you exactly how. If you go to Landline, certainly you can find the podcast.
Yeah, I think you're right.
It's on all the platforms, though.
Yeah.
I know you can use Apple and all that stuff. But, yeah, or if you got XM radio, like I said, it's on every night at 6 Central, 7 Eastern.
Yeah, I've listened to it quite a bit, and it's got some good information on there. But I can't tell you enough how good this information is that you guys have given me today. That just helps clarify a lot of things for me and actually gets me excited. So, I want to tell all of our listeners, especially our owner-operators here at Oakley, you better get signed up. If you're not an OOIDA member, you better get it done, especially while this special's going on, 50th anniversary, and congratulations on that, guys. That's a milestone right there to be in business for 50 years.
Thank you, Jeremy. We appreciate it. Yeah, we welcome all you guys. And, I know some guys from back when I was trucking, a few guys that worked for you guys, and I never heard anything bad about you. And you guys used to load up out of my backyard in Yorksville, Ohio at the aluminum place.
Oh, yeah.
And I'd see your guys come in and out, and their trucks always look good. Their equipment always looked good. They were always very professional. I'd be in there dropping ingots or picking up coils or something. And like I said, you guys got a stand-up company.
Well, I appreciate it, Lewie. Bryce, appreciate you joining us from Washington, D.C. and giving us some good, practical information that we can make sense out of it, and it helps tremendously to do that because, it just seems like that stuff can get complicated real quick, and I appreciate you guys joining us this week and giving us all the good information. Appreciate all my listeners out there listening to the Oakley Podcast. We come out with a new one every Wednesday. Try to bring you some good information here. Be sure and touch base with me if you got any questions. If you got any questions for Lewie or Bryce, send them to me. If you want to, I'm sure you can call them also, but if you want to send it to me, I'll email it to them and they'll get back with you. Once again, I appreciate everybody listening, and we'll talk to you next week.